Luke, I'm taking us to 1889 Sicily, and a woman is giving birth to a child, and she finds something unexpected. She gives birth to a child with 3 legs. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, no. 2 things. 1, loving our history era.
I've gone a bit further back, I know.
Well, no, but we've had Titanic, we've had the Second World War with a whiff of the First. We're now in the sort of 19th century. Great stuff. Love this for us.
I know. Well, maybe the present day needs a bit of escape, and so we're going back into the past. Do you have any news you wish to share?
Do I have any news? Yeah, it's been a heat wave here, so everyone's been sweltering again. I have been in the wake of the release of The Surgeon of St. Helena, my new podcast series about this small British island in the South Atlantic where there's been a scandal which is ongoing. Someone who was on the island sent a picture of the front of the paper which had my face on it.
Oh my God, you have to send me a picture. What did the headline say?
I can't remember, but the guy who runs the paper is this lovely man called Vince, who moved there. Well, he married a saint woman from St. Helena in the 70s. And he was very nice. And he runs the St. Helena Independent. So there's another paper which is a bit more... it seems a bit like newspaper by government press release, whereas his always like scandal, sort of airport chaos, and it's sort of a bit more tabloidy.
Oh, so he's tabloidy.
Yeah.
Love it.
Anyway, it was hilarious to see a picture of me
front
as the
page
podcast was
news.
being released on the front page.
God.
But then
You'll
when the solicitors who are helping the civil claim, which has come out of this scandal, went over there when I was there, they were on the front page as well.
Wow.
So I think it's sort of, it's not like being on the front page of the Mail or something here, thankfully. But still,
I live in fear of being on the front page of the Mail. It's never good, is it?
No.
Unless it's a royal wedding.
But I'm now a cover girl. So there we go. That's my
cover
news.
girl. Oh my God. Okay, please send it to me. And everyone listen to Luke's podcast.
You are back in LA after nipping back to New York. What's happening is it the Sunshine State, California? Probably is, isn't it?
I don't know. All I know is that their state flower is an orange poppy. So it feels, appropriate. I've been vulnerable on the podcast and say that dating is so much more fun in LA. And I know that some people are going to write in if you disagree. But the thing is, people have cars and a house. They don't live in apartments with other people. So what happens is they're like, I'll pick you up at 8. And then they drop you home again.
Sorry, I thought you were about to give us some sort of like romantic, they are sweeter, or they're kind of, oh no, they've got a car and their own house.
No, what I'm saying is
I don't have to walk anywhere. I'm dropped off door to door. I'm DHL to my date and back again.
No, hear me out. I'm just saying it's slightly more courtshipy and intentional when someone's like, I've booked us a nice restaurant. I'm going to drive us there. Someone took me to a lovely sunset on the cliffs. And like, it's just stuff you can't do in New York. New York is like, I'll meet you at a dive bar, babe. You know what I mean? And you're like getting the subway there. It's just a little bit less romantic. That's all I'm going to say. But this story has love in it. So that's a perfect radio segue.
Back to your 3 legs.
It's really hard to not think it's a bit rude as well, but there's actually multiple genitals coming down the line too. So this one this is gonna be called The Three-Legged King, the story of Frank Lucky Lentini. Francesco.
First of all, sorry, put a pin in this. How did you come across this? I mean, how did this come? Unless it's a spoiler.
No, how did I come to this? Oh, I'm very interested in circus freaks. And I use the term freak with inverted commas. And so I was thinking, I'd like to do something about a bearded lady or like, a strong man. I'm just sort of interested in carnies and that aesthetic. And Francesco fits into that era. So I was only 3 legs away from his story. So I don't think that makes sense. It's late here in LA. So we're in 1889 in Sicily, and Francesco Lentini is born, delivered by a local midwife. He's the 5th of 12 children. So, his poor mother giving birth to so many, but his doctors would diagnose him with something that's called, now I don't know if this is how you say it, but it's written as heteropagous twinning, But essentially, would you like to take a guess at what that condition really means?
Heteropagous twinning.
Yeah.
So he's straight. No, but the twinning is making me already think, well, if he's got 3 legs, is it something to do with sort of doubling up of a limb?
Well, that's a good guess. But it's actually that there was a parasitic conjoined twin that partially forms and never separates.
Oh, gosh, like you hear stories about somebody who goes to the dentist and they have toothache and then they extract the tooth and it's actually got sort of like hair and something else in it. And that was like a little bit of a twin growing in them. Yeah.
Oh, my God. Well, yeah, exactly. Or if you've seen My Big Fat Greek Wedding, she says, and in that lump there was my twin. So
of course, classic film. Yeah,
that character is like my favorite of any film. I really connect with her. So in Lentini's case, he has a third fully formed leg which extends from his right hip, and it has its own knee, but it also has a 4th foot on it. So he has 3 legs and 4 feet.
Sorry. Let me get this right. So. He's got his waist. He's then got 1 leg, as you'd expect. 2nd leg, as you'd expect.
Yeah.
A 3rd leg that then at the knee separates into 2 lower legs and feet.
No. Sorry. I really lost it. Hang on. No. Okay, let me try again. Sorry, that's just like, it'd be like a centipede. That'd be so upset. Okay. No, so he has 3 legs, and then the 3rd leg has a fully functioning knee cap on it, but then it has a sort of 4th foot that's just sort of there on the side.
Oh, so like another foot is coming out of the knee above where you'd expect to see the foot. Probably,
yes.
But yeah.
I have to check exactly where the 4th foot is, but it's somewhere on there. So it just means that he has 3 legs, 4 feet. Then he has a 2nd pelvis and actually 2 sets of functioning genitals. Now, I looked this up because I thought when it said genitals, I thought, well, does it mean hermaphrodite? But it's 2 functioning penises. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. So don't have this over your breakfast or whatever. But anyway, so it's pretty confronting for 1880 Sicily. And so the doctors investigate whether they can surgically remove the 3rd leg, and they decide no, because it's too close to the spine. There'd be a risk of paralysis, and he could die in the process. So his parents are very ashamed of him. There wasn't a lot of understanding about disabilities or these kind of health concerns. So it probably would have been very hard in the village. And so they kind of sent him to live with an aunt in a remote place. And he, it's kind of described that he had 2 kind of nicknames, which would maybe symbolize the different reactions to him. He had one, which was the Marvel, and then his other one was the Little Monster. And so
not nice.
He was kind of, it would have been very hard growing up. But at around, now this is disputed in different accounts, but somewhere between the age of 6 and 9, a traveling puppeteer showman named Vincenzo Magnano meets the young Francesco, and he sees an opportunity. So he says, listen, kid, I can make you a paying attraction. And so
also, can I say, I don't know how this guy pans out, but what a time to be alive where you had sort of traveling puppeteers making a good living.
Yes, I think it would be.
That's the economy we need to recreate. Yeah.
Seriously, I do. I'm a big puppet fan.
I'm a big puppet fan.
I think actually there's a lot more of a puppet scene here in the UK. So if you come and visit, we could hit the puppet bars.
Hit the puppet bars.
the hot puppet spots. So he goes to the family, Magnano, and he says, I'm going to take him to America, because that's where 3 legs and 2 pelvises and 16 toes and 4 feet could really make some money. And the family had very little money to their name. And so they go with them and say, yeah, let's all go to America to see if we can make some money. So he, as a child, he'd obviously really hated having the 3rd leg, and it made him feel very self-conscious. Yeah. But when he, and he'd even, at one point, they'd taken him on a visit to a children's home for children with disabilities. And, basically he saw there kids living very full and happy lives and being kind of celebrated, because I guess it was a disabled space and it wasn't kind of able-bodied people treating them badly. And he basically had it reframed in his mind, even prior to the puppeteer getting involved.
Which is amazing that that's even a thing that you could observe in late 19th century Italy. You'd think that there was just sort of their approach to it would just be sort of uniformly not up to scratch.
So true. And from the back of like what this facility offered, he was like, okay, I'm going to learn to run and jump and ride a bicycle and ride a horse and swim and ice skate and all of these things. Because he couldn't walk on the third leg because it was sort of too short. But he did learn to sort of straighten it and use it. And he used to joke about the extra leg helping him in the water and acting like a rudder when he swam. So he kind of transformed from, you know, someone who people laughed at to being kind of like in on the joke and it being something he could be empowered with. So by the time he's a teenager, he's touring with the Ringling Brothers, and he's eventually working with every major circus. He's a sideshow. You know, it was really the sideshow era. There was some listed on these websites that I'd never heard of, as if we should know them. But there was Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. There were, like, as I say, bearded ladies and all of that kind of stuff. But his signature move was he would use the third leg to kick a soccer ball, or a football, as I would call it, across the stage. And his stage name was the three-legged football player.
Wow.
So there you go. But he was also the three-legged Sicilian, the great Lentini, but he ends up being the king. And it really showed that a lot of people had a lot of respect for him and that he, you know, really drew a crowd. He often would sell his own pamphlet at his shows, you know, he'd print an account of his life story, and audiences could take that home. So it meant that he was kind of like creating his own narrative, being a businessman about it. And he'd also do this thing where he would take audience questions during the show. So he would just be like, you know, you want to ask me about my two genitals or whatever? Like, tell me. Yeah. And the other thing he used to joke a lot about was that obviously he had to like customize all his clothes because like nothing really fit for three legs, and that, you know, he still needed everything handcrafted. But the question really, I'm sure all of us is asking, is could a man living the sideshow life, having to have tailored pants made to fit his three legs, find love? And you have to find that out after the break.
Wow.
The question I left you with before the break was, could he find love? And Luke, I'm happy to inform you that he could.
Oh, good.
Oh, come on, we need some good news. So 1907, he marries Teresa Murray in Chicago. They have 4 children together, Josephine, Ned, Frank Jr. and James. And he actually becomes a US citizen at age 30. And, you know, he has 28 years with Teresa and it's very happy. But he, in fact, is blessed with 2 loves of his life because he separates with her and he remarries another woman called Helen Shoup, who he stays with for the rest of his life. And eventually he settles. And like many retired touring sideshow performers in this era, they end up in Florida.
Sorry, can I say this is the play you'd go, or the film you'd go. This would be the Martin McDonagh film. Would be the kind of the sideshow retirement home.
Exactly.
Where you're all in your 80s and you've all, you know, you've got the bearded lady there, you've got the strong man, you've got your man with the 3 legs, and they're all kind of like reminiscing or sharing stories, and there's some kind of like dark through line through all of them.
I love that. If you're listening, any filmmakers, Luke and I are happy for you to option the rights on the back of this podcast. The afterlife of the sideshow, or whatever it would be called. Yeah. So, you know, and I was kind of touched by this story because, you know, there were some great quotes from him. He said, like, I never complained. I think life is beautiful and I enjoy living it. He was known for being very optimistic. It didn't get him down. He had a good sense of humor. And eventually, he never really retired, though. Despite he had his little boarding house in Florida, he would still go and do tours. And so in 1966, while on the road with one of these sideshows, he falls ill and is hospitalized.
Sorry, 1966?
Yeah.
Gosh, people are still paying to go and sort of see
sideshows.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I know. Well, there you go. Again, TVs are only just coming in, Luke. I think we lost a lot as TVs came in. The planes doing the loop-de-doo from our last episode, and also the 3-legged men of it all. But he lived to 77, and apparently he sort of mid-tour having done 60 years on the road, he sort of stopped. He's died, and that was the end of him. But what's kind of amazing is he's had this like recent revival. A 1995 alt rock band had put his image on their album cover, and so like people got really into him. He is depicted in The Greatest Showman. If you remember that film, there is a 3-legged character based on him. And so in a weird way, he was born, in shame. His family shot him away to live somewhere else with his aunt. But then he became a kind of cult hero and had children and had a great life.
Well, I sort of don't miss circuses and that kind of sort of heyday and all these sort of horrible things happening to people who maybe just needed care. But I do quite like the idea of the sideshow life of just sort of touring these places. I mean, maybe it was absolutely horrible and people were grim and asking you awful questions and you were being taunted, but it does seem sort of glam in a sort of Greatest Showman kind of way. My amuse-bouche is a lot more, well, it takes us to a completely different space. This is just a little entertaining story which I saw in the paper the other day. This is a story about a black Labrador, favourite dog, called Tokyo. Its owner is called Christina, who is a dog trainer, so a good owner. And they were climbing Ben Nevis. If you know Ben Nevis, big mountain. Lots of people do it as part of the Three Peaks Challenge. I think I've been at Ben. No, I haven't been at Ben Nevis. That was Snowdon. Anyway, Tokyo, the black Labrador, collapsed halfway up the mountain. If you see a photograph of Tokyo, it looks like a very bouncy, healthy, adult black Labrador. Anyway, she quickly lost the use of her legs, drifted in and out of consciousness, and Christina, her owner, said, "I genuinely thought I was going to lose her." So they had the mountain rescue team who came up, helped rescue the dog. There was a photograph of 5 of them carrying a sort of stretcher with the black Labrador on. She only weighs 25 kilograms, so I don't know why it took all of them. But anyway, it was too much for Christina by herself to take her down.
A lot of judgment there. Not everyone's a strong woman like me.
And they carried it all the way down Ben Nevis. Your one, Christina, was so frightened. She said it was one of the most frightening days I've ever experienced. And little Tokyo, the dog, was unconscious for much of this journey. Finally got to the vets where you'll be pleased to know she made a full recovery the following day. Christina said, it just felt so lucky that there was this help when we needed it. The reason that she was ill is that somewhere on Ben Nevis, Tokyo found a lot of cannabis and ate it.
No. So he was just really stoned.
Absolute stoned Labrador.
Whoa.
To the extent she couldn't move her legs.
Someone told me here that is the main problem. If you go to the Venice Beach veterinary service, it's just endless dogs getting into weed on the street or someone's cookies, because like weed's legal here and used a lot, and it's just stone dogs. It's just getting dogs on high. So Tokyo was fine. I mean, it can be bad. Otherwise, presumably they just white out and come back down to earth.
Gosh. Why did they clean their stuff up? That's horrible.
Make sure you don't get your dog baked.
I would say there was a sort of link in this article to a 2022 incident, which is slightly different, dealing with a different dog, but also on Ben Nevis, when a rescue operation had to be launched because there was a dog who just wouldn't move. Just had enough. She was called Maggie. She was a 35 kilogram Turkish Akbash, and she had sore paws, and she just was like, no, not moving any further. We've all had dogs like that, where they're just like, actually, not going this way anymore.
I've just been like that, Sometimes we just all have sore paws and give up.
We're yanking on your lead. This way, Poppy.
Well, this was quite an uplifting one for us. We managed to have a, sideshow extraordinaire and a baked Labrador. So we'll bring it back down to the nasty things next week. If you would like to send in your own strangely story. Now, when we say that, I feel like we're being quite non-specific, but if you have like a really bonkers personal real story, that's what we would love to read. So please send them in. We would love to you've got the address.
Strangely at alwaystruecrime.com. But also, if you just got any comments, brickbats and bouquets are also welcome. And do subscribe to the podcast. I know people always bang on about that, but it does help, and it helps you get an episode whenever they are ready. And, you know, if you think you've got a slightly twisted, strange friend who might enjoy all of this as well, send them a link, send them a screen grab of this episode that you're listening to and go, hey, I think you should listen to this. It's very, very good.
Well, I'll see you next week, Luke.
See you next Tuesday.
Bye.